Well, it's wonderful to have you here, though, and I'm delighted to be able to show you the HiveKeepers Micro Honey Harvester in action. And we can do that because down here in Australia, we've just started our summertime, and I've got some honey just off to the side here in one of our beautiful frames, and we're going to harvest that for you in just a moment. I realise I haven't introduced myself, so I'm Simon from HiveKeepers. This is my company. I'm the founder. I'm also a beekeeper of about 15 years. And I've got Daniel and Jemima on call with me today, who are also part of HiveKeepers and love to see and be around and listen to people and other beekeepers. But as someone who has kept bees for quite some time, always just at the small scale hobbyist level, I know what it's like to manage bees. I know what it's like with all the frustrations that come around. And I know how complicated and daunting it is to decide how to go about deciding what are you going to do to harvest your honey. There are so many other decisions to make already when it comes to beekeeping, and just the one task alone of getting some honey from your bees is also a real challenge and a complicated part of it all. So having felt that frustration for many, many years, here I am now, having spent the last 3 years working on a new way to get honey quickly from the beehive to you. And that's not because I want to create lazy beekeepers. That's not what it is at all about. I want to be able to create beekeepers who can actually enjoy being with their bees, spend quality time looking after them, because they do need careful consideration and time, but not be dragged down by what is normally a huge effort to harvest honey. And it's not just the actual harvesting bit, it's the preparation before, it's the setting up, it's the actual harvesting days, it's the filtering, it's the cleanup afterwards. And for me, sometimes that'd take a week or 10 days. And you might go, well, how's that come about? Well, you obviously there's a few reasons why that happens like that. Is firstly, you want to have as much honey as you can to be bothered setting up all that equipment from an extractor to uncapping equipment to filtering equipment. For me, it was tables in my garage and all sorts of other gear. You only want to go to that effort when you've got lots of honey. So you really need to do your honey preparation day, the day or the setup day, the day before your harvest, because you're going to go and bring all that honey in, have it ready to go. You're going to set up the space. That's a day's worth of work sometimes already. Then on actual harvest day, when you've got to remove the cappings, you've got to put them all in and extract them, extract the frames, you've got to go through the process of filtering. By the time you've done that, it's normally quite exhausting. It's heavy work, it's hot work, it takes a long time. It's sticky and it's messy. And you haven't even still got to having clean honey yet, because then you do the filtering, and normally the filtering might take 24 or 48 hours. It's best to let it settle. And then you want to put that into other containers so it's ready to use. And with all that process and then the cleanup afterwards, you might have another 2 or 3 days where you begrudgingly drag yourself through a big sticky mess of a cleanup. And I couldn't stand that, and it was taking me away from my bees and putting my effort into my bees, and it made honey harvesting a real hassle instead of a pleasure like I always wanted it to be. So that's where all this has come in. Now, we didn't start with this exact idea in mind. We started with a lot of ideas in mind, and we've got to the point now where this has been tested in various scenarios here in Australia, in some other countries, and we've been able to go, great, we're confident of what we've got here. But it took a lot of time. We had to do lots of little tests over the last few years to know that this is the right thing that we're doing. So that's sort of the history behind this. And we've tested with a lot of beekeepers this last summer here in Australia, and we've done as many harvests as we possibly could since then. And I will just proudly put it out here right now that when we were in Apimondia in September, which was one of the biggest beekeeping events on the planet, where they host the World Beekeeping Awards, this invention here won gold at the World Beekeeping Awards. Against 55 inventions in total, this is the #1 invention. So with that in mind, let's just get down and have a look at this thing, because I'm dying to show you and share that with you. Okay, so what I'm going to show you there is there's a few key parts to our invention. Firstly, you need the frame. Just leave it there. Camera's fine. You need the frame and the cassettes. And in this instance, the Langstroth frame is what we've got it currently configured to, and it works well with that. So that's how you can see that there now. There's the Langstroth frame. Inside this frame, you can see 8 pairs of cassettes. And a cassette is 2 parts. 2 parts, and I'm going to show you how they pop apart now. You can see here at the top, and with my little tool, it can just neatly pops apart with hardly any effort at all. And when I open that up, there's 2 parts. You can see that there's holes there, can't you? You can see the holes. You can see the color of the skin of my hand here on this side, sorry, and you can see that it's open. And what you're looking at there is a really carefully designed structure, so that when you put the 2 halves back together, just going to pop that back together now, that on the inside there, it is the exact same shape that the bees themselves would build out that honeycomb structure. It's a fancy name for it is a rhomboidal geometric structure. Well, we've built that into this. And the reason why that was so important is because obviously we want to make it as realistic for the bees as we possibly can, but also that when we open it up like this, that honey is going to come out of the back side of the cassette, not the front, not the main side that you see when I'm holding it up to you like this, but the back side. And why is that important? Because, well, it's incredibly important that we can do that, because one of the things that I can't stand, and many other people have challenged by it, is confidently removing the beeswax cappings off the front of these cassettes. I'm just going to reach over here for a moment and show you what I mean. Here's some beautiful honey, not quite a complete frame, but there's certainly some cassettes there that are ready to be harvested. That beeswax cappings, for those that aren't familiar with it, normally in harvesting would have to be removed so that you can access the honey from the front. But in the way that we're going to do it, that's not how it needs to happen at all. We're going to access the honey from behind. So one of the most laborious technical tasks is no longer required when you do it this way. No cappings removal. So let's just go back a step. You pop this open. When it comes apart, you're going to turn it the opposite way around, and it's about to slot into here your micro honey harvester. And I'll just hold that up for a moment. You can see it's not plugged into or anything. It's just its own little entity. These slide in. Cappings haven't been touched. And because the cappings haven't been touched, when we go to spin this out in a moment, all of the beeswax bits don't end up in the honey because they've not been loosened in the first place. So it makes it really easy to have clean, fresh honey immediately. And I'm going to do that for you in just a moment. So rather than do this right now and spin it for you, you're about to see the real version of it happening. But I just wanted to show you the very quick breakdown of this, how that works. There's a nice, simple mechanism. So the bowl comes out and the charging base and the motor are all conveniently stacked in the one part, and it clicks together nicely. So that's the very basics. I could talk all day, as you probably can tell, I can talk, but I'll keep it to the simple side of things here. I just wanted to show you the quick mechanisms of that. So I'm going to put this aside, make some room for me. I'm going to harvest some honey for you. So it is an experience like no other doing it this way. So here you can see some beautiful cassettes. These cassettes here that aren't properly capped, we wouldn't be harvesting that honey. There's not much honey in those ones. It's not ready. Even if there was some in there that was uncapped, but this one here has partially capped, we wouldn't be using that because the nectar needs to be ripe, turned into proper honey. But I've got to say, this one at the top here, I'm going to come to you with the camera, is looking just stunning. And on the other side where that one is also looking just brilliant. So I'm about to pop that one out. These pop out from one particular side. And I'm just going to sit that down to put this frame out of the way. Just want to hold that up to you. It's a bit easier to show you now. How good does that look? You can see some beautiful beeswax there. You know it's ripe, beautiful honey. So I just want to bring this in a little bit centrally too. Now, this is an older style of cassette from our last season of honey. We've only got the final version from production really recently, so I haven't been able to collect enough honey in those yet to be able to show you. So this one I just manually push apart. And without that tool, it's a little bit more effort. But with the tool, with the new design, it's really great. Oh, it smells wonderful. So you can see a little bit of beeswax sits in the base of each of those. I'm just going to pull it back a bit so it doesn't drip honey onto the laptop below. And it's looking really lovely. So I'm going to get this just going to slide this in again, not removing the cappings. And I'm just taking my time. Once you're really good at this, you can harvest the whole frame. So 8 cassettes in about 5 minutes, but I'm just going to take my time with you today. The lid goes on. Lid needs to be on. It doesn't need to be, like, you can lock it in place for walking around and keeping everything contained. It's not mission critical that it's that locked in for the harvest. Now, I want the camera to come around here and a little bit closer. So the camera can come in just there, drop it down below the bench. Just drop it down below the bench a little bit. That's it. Because this is the bit that I'm excited to show you about. So I'm about to push the button here and it's going to spin for 30 seconds. Now I'm just checking you can see all that very nicely from that end. Daniel, give me a thumbs up. Great. All right. So this is the bit that I love to show you. Just come down a little bit lower. Good. All right, let's have a look at this harvest. Have a look at that. It is extremely satisfying watching this. And I would be the person in the world that has watched this process the most, given it's my invention. But at the same time, there's not a time that this happens that I'm still not impressed and satisfied watching it. You can see it already flowing down the front face here. So it's already collecting quite a bit of honey. And that just automatically slows down at the 30-second mark. How spectacular is that? It's so satisfying to see it. And it just looks simply amazing. It's hard to know if we've got all of the honey out of that. Just for arguments, just for fun, we're going to hit it again. We'll probably see a little bit more come out. And whilst it's doing that, oh yeah, there's a bit more coming out. You'll certainly get most of it out in that first 30-second run. If your honey is a bit cold or if it's a little bit thicker than normal, it might need a second press, but you'd be amazed that you can get most of it out very, very quickly in the first push. All right, that should just slow down in just a brief moment. Looks good, doesn't it? All right, we'll bring the camera back up where it was before. Good. So I need to show you a few things. Firstly, everything stays nice and clean. The only place that honey is on this bowl. It doesn't really, oh, the smell. Got to tell, oh, beautiful. What I want to do is now show you. Let's lift this out. Sit that there because it's a nice, easy way to go after it. I'm just going to hold this up to the camera. And hopefully, doing this, I don't know if you can see any bits of beeswax or anything in there that you wouldn't, that's, you know, impurities, although beeswax to most beekeepers, they just eat it anyway. And if I just hold this down so I can probably see it a little bit easier than you, I can see one bit of beeswax. Hang on. One bit of beeswax, which you will hardly even see on the end of that teaspoon. So I was telling you earlier that you need that the traditional ways, there's a lot of filtering to do. You are just constantly filtering and it's a massive effort to manage that. So there's no filtering required here. It's clean honey from the beginning. In fact, it's ready to go right now without any extra effort. And if I'm just get this out, the bowl's so easy to use that you can just then go in here. This is not the spatula that we send out with these kits, but we do have a spatula that comes. And this bowl, by the way, takes about 2 litres of volume. I'm not sure what that is in common US metrics or measurements, but 2 litres, about 3 kilos. And it won't take long and you'll have all that honey out of there. And it always feels like you haven't harvested a lot initially until you start scraping the edges. Anyone who is a beekeeper and has collected honey before knows that as soon as you start doing this and scraping the sides, you get a huge, there's more volume than you first realised. And that's kind of satisfying, to be honest, because it's a nice little bonus you get after having harvested that there's more than you thought. This is a really light coloured honey. I wouldn't know what that's from down here in Melbourne, Australia. We've just got a real mix of plants around our area. So it could be some eucalyptus forest forage in there. There's certainly lots of gardens. We've got a wonderful garden here, blessed with a beautiful garden here with lots of bees moving around it every day. So my bees are just outside the window over there. In fact, anyone who's recently been watching our videos, I've posted how we prime these plastic frames, how we prime them so that the bees are a bit more comfortable with them at first. And I did that a couple of weeks ago, and showing that on I showed that live on the Facebook post. And I'm actually going to go out there and do another post this afternoon, I think, time permitting, because those frames that were out there about 3 weeks ago are filling up with honey already. And I thought it would take longer. We've had terrible weather here, but I thought it would take quite a bit longer. But the good news is they're moving into those cassettes right now and already making a huge difference. Now, the reason I wanted to get that honey out, so I'm going to hold it up to you one more time. Before it all runs forward and lands on my laptop, which is just below the honey jar here. It's so clean. There's just nothing in there to cause it. Oh, nearly tipped it on the computer. There's barely anything there that would cause anyone any concern with regard to clean honey. So it's ready to go. But there's one other thing that I really want to show you, and the camera's going to follow me around in it. It's the cleanup from this. In the past, it's taken me hours and days before I've got it sorted. Come and have a look at this. So you got this bowl. Some asked me about is it dishwasher safe? Yes, it is, but I wouldn't even worry about that, because by the time you just run some warm water, in fact, it's cold water at the moment, I'm just going to start to give it a little rinse. There's some warm water coming through now. Let's get a cloth in there. Remember, days of work, cleaning up sticky floors, big bulky extractors that you have to store for the rest of the season for use only maybe 2 or 3 days a year. Just checking I've done that properly. I think I have, and it's ready to go. I'm going to take a better tea towel than this to dry it, but the point is come back around this way while I just dry that off. I think I could do a cooking show. I'm not sure if I'm proud of that or concerned. I think I can do that. But then let's just dry this off. You could even just leave it in your drying rack on the bench and it'll be all it needs. But how quick is that to be fully cleaned up? It looks clean. There's nothing in there. All you need to do with this is take those cassettes out, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This unit is otherwise ready. It needs to be charged up periodically. Doesn't need a lot of charge because it actually doesn't use much. It's USB-C charged, and what's great about that is if you want to take this out to the beehive with you and you're actually harvesting out with your beehives, you can actually take a battery pack and a USB-C charger and keep it topped up. But it will harvest about 2 frames worth of cassettes before it needs a top up, which I think is pretty good. So if I take these cassette halves out, that's back there. The next most obvious question, so I want to answer this for you, even though I love questions, is I put these back together and I put it back in the beehive. So imagine taking this down, putting it back in the beehive like this. Well, what's going to happen now with that beeswax on the front here? Everyone that has had bees knows how clever bees are. They can sense that within the first 24 hours of that going back in the hive, as long as they're moving around and not, winter clustering, which you probably wouldn't be harvesting honey from them if they were. They'll remove that beeswax and they'll get straight back in there, clean up any loose honey, move that beeswax around. Sometimes they kick it out the front of the hive. That's not too often, but they can. And it's ready to be refilled by the bees again. So that's the really quick run through. I could talk more, but I think it's a good time to pause and just see if there's any questions or thoughts